Hello everyone and welcome to Whisky Wednesday. With St. Patrick's Day coming up, it makes sense to kind of roll out some big cool Irish whiskies. So today we're going to be talking about Bushmills 16-year-old. I've not seen this in the shop I work in for a while. We get asked for it a lot, obviously oldest registered distillery in the world of whiskey, 1608. Not much outdates that. Even the oldest Scottish whiskey distilleries on record is 1772 with Little Mill, 1775 with Glenturret. So Bushmills are ahead of the curve by a very long time, and most people know it for just a basic blended whiskey, or you can get like the Black Bush version, which has a bit more sherry in it, and there's loads of travel retail versions, which I rarely see. I'm not really a fan of travel retail whiskey. There's not much in there that kind of sparks my fire. But in terms of their regular range, we now have the 16 and the 21. We're just talking about the 16. Might be able to talk about the 21 in a couple of weeks' time, but at the minute it's just this guy. Minimum 16 years old, classic triple distillation from Ireland, bourbon, sherry and port cask influence. From what I can read, the whiskey's matured in bourbon and sherry separately, and then it's all married together in port casks. If any of you know any better, or if any of you work for Bushmills, by all means correct me, but that's what I could gather from just reading up about it. It's a single malt whiskey, which is a little bit unusual for Irish whiskey. I only really know Irish whiskies as blends or as pot still products. Teeling does some more single malt stuff. Bushmills with the older stuff is single malt styles. Connemara, Tyrconnell. But outside of those, most of it is just blended and pot still in terms of the really famous brands. But this is a small exception. We should be looking for a much more kind of soloist flavour to it. It should be very individual, bit of sweet as well as kind of Christmassy and rich. So we'll dive in, we'll smell it, we'll taste it, and we'll see what you all think. The nose is pretty classic, I suppose you can say. I really don't want to throw out notes of like Christmas cake and sultana and raisin, because I do that all the time with sherry casks. I've been rewatching some of our videos. I should really awaken my palate and learn some new things. So let's try and find some unusual things kicking around in this. I'm unsure what the type of sherry is, but using bourbon, sherry and port all together, you've got some quite sweet flavour profiles. So there's like a cola cubey thing going on with it, like Coca-Cola in general. I'm pretty sure Coca-Cola use it's a root called Angelica root, which gives you that kind of lemony, like freshness that you get from Coca-Cola. I get a little bit of that from it. Obviously, if you don't know what Angelica root smells like, it's a bit lost, but specifically Angelica root, cola cubes, Coca-Cola drinks. And port always gives me kind of like nutty flavours. The addition of sherry within this as well, hazelnuts, almonds, not quite the savouriness of like a pine nut, but like it's oily, it smells quite rich and lovely. It is only 40% alcohol, so I don't think we're going to get the fullest flavour possible at 16 years old with all this cask influence. The ultimate argument in whiskey is that if it was stronger, we'd taste more, but we're not master distillers, we're not master blenders, so what they say goes. But I don't think we're going to get the full flavour at 40%. But there's some beautiful cola-y, nutty, earthy flavours to it, but are still quite sweet. No smoke, very little spice, as you'd expect with a well-aged Irish whiskey. Taste-wise, we'll go into it. Yeah, it follows on. It's not, in fact, me saying before that I don't want to mention Christmas cake or sultana is fine, because it doesn't really have a lot of that. Initially, there's this beautiful follow-on from the nose. It's almost like a cherry, I just keep naming soft drinks now, so like kind of Dr. Peppery cherry cola thing going on with it. And then 16 years within bourbon cask too is going to give a lot of full flavour, so there's like a creamy custard note, a freshness of almost like coconut, some sort of nutty fruit in the back. The finish is developing to like quite sweet, quite coating, not particularly bitter, not particularly over the top, not particularly oaky in any way. The balance of the casks is lovely. There's a lot going on with this. Like, even though I've just said at 40% we might not get a lot of flavour, I'm pleasantly surprised. So let's go in again, because there's a lot going on with there that I didn't really expect. They're really syrupy, falling on for that kind of Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper thing. You get the port right at the end, and it just gives you this kind of lift from the kind of heaviness of big bourbon casks and big sherry casks. It just lifts the tail of it up a little bit, like a little flick of kind of finesse at the end. But yeah, it's really centered around kind of like syrups. There's a bit of maple running through it. It's not very atypical at all. The bourbon cask bringing in those exotic fruits, coconut, we get a bit of mango now, a bit of peach, even some banana. And then the port just giving it a little kind of flick of finesse towards the back of it. Clean, welcoming. I really didn't know what to expect with this. I've not tried Bushmills for a long time, so this was quite a pleasant surprise. I'll try it one more time, see if I can pick out anything more unusual in there, and then we'll kind of wrap it all up. Yeah, cherries, almonds, like Bakewell tart kind of flavours, frangipane, that kind of white icing. Wonderfully rounded, a beautiful, slightly earthy, syrupy sweet finish. Not off-putting in any way. Price-wise, it kicks around that kind of Redbreast 15 territory, like 70-ish, £75. Delicious stuff. Quite impressive. I don't think it's as good as Redbreast 15, because that is like one of my favourite Irish whiskies ever. But it's still a very good whiskey. So I'm going to give it an 8, solid 8 out of 10. Very deserving of it. If any of you tried Bushmills 16, if you're fans of the style, let us know in the comments, but I'm very impressed by that. Thank you, Bushmills. That was Bushmills 16. I'm Phil. This is Whisky Wednesday, and we'll see you all next week.